So in this video, we are going to be trying the impossible. Can we get the petri effect to come upwards instead of downwards? If this works, it's going to be a world first. What you are seeing here is the petri effect in resin growing upwards. This is absolutely phenomenal. Right, we are back with another crazy resin art experiment. Have you missed me? No. Okay, fair enough. Just joking. It has been a while, but we have moved into our new house now and it's so much nicer. We haven't got rodents chewing through the floor, leaks coming through the ceiling, drafts, whatnot. Yeah, it's really nice and cozy. Still got a lot to do, so bear with me, but things will come back to normal very, very soon. So in this video, we are going to be trying the impossible. Now, I've thought about this a lot since I started using alcohol inks in resin. And that is whether we could do the petri so that, how can I explain this? So this is the normal petri effect we get by dropping alcohol inks on epoxy, then dropping what's known as a white sinker over the top, and it sinks slowly, pushing the colours and creating these incredible spores. Now, can we do this in reverse? We're going to be fighting against gravity. Can we get the petri effect to come upwards instead of downwards? Does that make sense? Now, a viewer did suggest this and challenged me a couple of months ago in my comments, but it is something, again, I've thought about before. Now, to achieve this, I have a product that I'm pretty sure I've used this on the channel before. It is glass bubbles. It's made for epoxy. You do need to wear your mask with this, as you would anyway. It's like tiny little glass balls. I mean, they're so small you can't even see them. I don't understand how they make these things so small. So I'm thinking if I mix this in with some white epoxy, this is going to be very similar to a couple of videos ago where we created these incredible pieces. But this time what I'm going to do is mix some of this in with the white. I'm hoping these little glass beads begin to float and push up similar to this. I'm hoping we can do the petri effect in reverse. If this works, it's going to be a world first. And we are, of course, using the Let's Resin Daniel Cooper collab resin for this. Let's get mixing. Okay, so as I was mixing this, if you think of these tiny little bubbles where I've not mixed my resin patiently enough, if you think of those rising from the bottom to the top, if you think of those as being the glass beads, what I'm going to need to do is colour this with white pigment, add the beads, and I'm going to have to let the resin sit, because if I do this all in one stage, what's going to happen, I think, is the beads are just going to float straight to the surface. The same as what these bubbles would over the next, say, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is add some white pigment paste to this now. Just going to use some of the ocean white from Let's Resin. Just going to colour this with my white. That should do it. Thoroughly mix that in and then we'll add the beads. Okay, it is time to add the glass beads. Before I take the lid off, I'm going to pull up my mask. I've already got a little stick in there. I don't know how much to add of this, but this is 30 ml in total of mixed resin. So yeah, it's all trial and error. I mean, you'll see it's like a dust. They're so small. So, I don't know, maybe the end of my stick. I don't know what's too much. See, the thing is, I don't want the wool to just float up to the surface. I think we're going to go with this this much. Just tap that off very, very slowly. Going to mix that in so it doesn't become airborne. I think I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay, I'm now just going to let this sit for maybe 15 minutes just to thicken up so it speeds up the next stage. Okay, so that's been sitting for about 15 minutes. It's kick-started the exotherm, so it should speed things up. Just be careful when you're doing this, you don't want it to flash cure. So what I think has happened in that 15 minutes is most of those micro bubbles, micro balloons, have probably floated to the surface. So I'm going to give this a thorough mix before pouring it. Okay, that should do. Now this mold is the wrong orientation for this kind of thing. The bottom of the mold would ordinarily be the front of the piece. We're doing things in reverse. Doesn't matter, I can dome the pieces afterwards. So we're working from the back to the front. We want the petri effect to form from the bottom towards the top. Guys, fingers crossed for this. And also by mixing this, if I hadn't mixed it and just poured, say, into that one, there would have been a huge concentration of the micro balloons in that piece, but not the rest. So definitely, I think definitely needed to mix that. So we've got 9 in total. Now we are going to straight away after pouring add our alcohol ink. So I'm using the Let's Resin 26 ink set for this, and I'm just going to add my colours straight onto that white resin. Okay, I think that will do. We've got a nice variation of colour in there, fairly safe colours. Now, if I was to pour my fresh resin on top of this now, it's just going to create a mess. So, and we're also at risk of those micro balloons just completely floating to the surface. So I think I need to let this thicken up, but we could also, it could thicken up so much that the micro balloons can't pull away from that white resin and through the alcohol inks. Again, this is just an experiment to see if this works. I'm hoping I can kind of predict when I need to pour the fresh resin over the top, but definitely not now. So what's going to happen whilst I'm waiting is most of those micro balloons are going to float to the surface just below the colour in preparation for the next stage. As always, massive shout out to my channel members, anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks, and to all our subs. Thank you very much. I think we're almost at 150k now, so thank you. Right, so these have been sitting for about an hour. Let me take you down. Now we've got some really nice patterns for a start, but I don't know whether you can see the kind of fuzziness. I think those are the micro bit balloons. You can just see them on the surface. So my resin, the consistency is fairly thick now. What I've done is I've just mixed up some fresh resin. I think what I'm going to do, I don't really want it to do what it did in that previous video. It kind of lifted all of the inks. I think we could be too soon. So what I'm going to do to see is just pour the fresh resin on 1 or 2 and then kind of get a hyperlapse. So I think I'm going to go on this one. I'm really hoping it doesn't disturb too much. No, it isn't really. That's a good sign. Right, I'm going to give this 10 minutes and just see what happens. So what you've just seen is just over the space of 5 minutes, and this is absolutely incredible. You can see these spores starting to come up, and you can see this kind of like a petal formation, that's where we poured the fresh resin on top and it's kind of lifted away, similar to that previous video that I mentioned. If you haven't seen that video, it's video 311, go and check it out. Some absolutely crazy new effects with resin. But this is crazy. You can see these tiny glass beads beginning to push up. Some of them are kind of clumped together and it's creating these spores very, very similar to the petri effect, you know, the normal way. But this is something I've not seen. I'll be really interested to see how the others. I think this is probably a little bit too early though. So this blue area here is potentially going to rise to the surface. I don't know whether that's going to be a problem or not, but it really has got some stuff going on in there. So what I'm going to do is probably give it another half hour or so and then try it again. But this is something we've not seen this in resin before. The petri effect actually going from the bottom to the top. Okay, so it's probably only been about 15 minutes, and what I'm worried about is that this resin that I've already mixed is just going to start getting too warm. So I am just going to proceed pouring the resin over the top of the rest of them, just to prevent any waste. You know, I don't want this to flash cure. If I think it needs changing, I can always do another video. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes since I poured, and let me take you down again. I cannot believe this has worked as well as it has. Those spores coming upwards are absolutely incredible. I mean, look at that. This is the first one I poured and it is looking a little bit busy. Now I did run out of resin, so I only managed to, after that one, fill another 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've still got another 4. So I've mixed up some more resin. So it's currently coming up to an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. So I'm going to wait maybe another 10 minutes and just top up these ones and just see if we get less of the lift. Because if you look at this one down here, you can see these white spores. That's where I've poured the fresh resin on the top and it's kind of pushed it out and then it's come to the surface and it's kind of pulling inwards. I don't particularly want that. This one's fine. This one was a little bit too busy, but I want less, I want less of the micro balloons to float. So there's a lot on the surface on this one. So we'll just see. But ultimately, with something like this, you could be using a different brand epoxy. Yeah, things, your room temperature can make a difference. You're going to have to test. You're going to have to test this, test the timings, and yeah, kind of crack it. I'm actually really blown away at this. Some of the photos I've just got of some of these are insane. So I've waited a little bit longer. It's coming up to the 2-hour mark now. So I've just again mixed up some fresh resin and I'm going to pour them over and just see if there's much difference. Okay, we've got quite a major difference between the two timings. So I'll take you down again, probably for the final time. So going back to these first ones, they're very typical petri effect where you use a heavy sinker and the sinker kind of touches the mold. Very, very similar, almost identical to that petri style look. Now with the fresh ones, a lot more controlled. Still got those spores, bigger in some areas, but if you really look, it's absolutely incredible. That's like an explosion inside that piece. and this one here. I cannot believe these results. Some of them are just touching on this one, the surface. What I did is I poured in slightly too much resin, so I don't have to worry about kind of doming them afterwards. But look at that. And then there was this one. So I kind of want to stir one or two, but I don't want to stir them all. So this is one of the first ones that I poured. I'm going to stir this one. Now, there's going to be some resistance if I put my stick further down into the resin, because we've got fresher resin on top of more cured resin. I don't know whether to go further down or just stir the surface. Of course, I've never done it before, but I really like the way it looks now. The trouble is, I do want to see what it looks like when it's stirred. But I don't know whether to go all the way to the bottom or just stir the surface. I think I'm going to just touch the surface of the coloured resin below. And just see what happens. This is identical to the normal petri effect, I think. And then just pull that away slowly. And it has the same as it does the other way. It's pulled those spores in a really nice pattern. I'm loving this. The trouble is, now I want to stir them all, but I'm not going to. So now it's just a waiting game for these to fully cure. I don't see much more happening between now and then, but it could. I really don't know. So the warmth of the first layer should begin to start, or it has already started to accelerate that second layer as well, curing. So I don't think there's going to be much, there's going to be a fair bit of resistance now. So yeah, we'll see you for the demold. Okay, it is the following day. Now, what I should have done, there hasn't been much change. A little bit, not too much. What I should have done, if you look on the surface, you can just see some kind of clusters of the micro balloons. What I should have done, instead of doming these up, is just left them all like this, so there's room, and then just top them up afterwards. What I'm going to do with one or two of them is just give them a quick top coating, keep them in the mold, and just top them up with a bit of UV resin just to see if we can get a better finish. But definitely what I would do next time is leave a little bit of room and top them up, or I just need to pour in the fresh resin a little bit later so the spores can't reach up to the top. Like I said, I think it's going to be a little bit of learning the balance, either less of the micro balloons or wait a little bit longer. So I'll see you in a mo. Okay, we're all done. Before the results, as always, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment, even if it's just a smiley face, and again, if you haven't subbed, hit that button for me. It is free. I'm sure I'm going to crack this and get the balance perfect, but these are the ones that I poured the fresh resin after 1 hour. I'm blown away. I really am. Again, it's going to need a top coat, but the spores are there, the colour's still there, and it's very similar to using something like a heavy sinker white, like a pinata. It's crazy. We made petri in reverse. Some of the shots I've got are phenomenal. You've got like a little eye in there, look, see it? It's like a little dragon curled up. So this one, again, it kind of lifted the white pigment up from the surface and pulled it inwards. It's giving it like this detail here. Let me just see those spores. Absolutely incredible. To watch it happening as well, it's really mesmerizing. This one I've top coated. You can see that blush, that kind of blush is gone now. Really nice finish. Maybe I shouldn't have stirred it, I don't know. Absolutely insane. Why do we need to do this? We don't really. But again, it's just a challenge. Can it be done? Yes. It can. Okay, I'm going to go with this one next. Look from the side. It is identical to the petri effect. It's crazy. Go with different colours, doesn't even have to be white. Go with all sorts of colours. Let's go with this one. I love this one. Let's go from the side again. Look at that. It's alien. Love it. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? So this is, I've got two favourites. This one, it's like an explosion. Yeah, I love this one. But this one, I think, is my favourite of them all. I've finished this one off. It's just perfect. You've got the spores, you've got the depth, you've got the colour. Absolutely loving it. Let's have a look at these ones through the side. I'm not sure we're actually going to be able to see much because it's very busy in these ones. So yeah, definitely. I mean, this stuff, I think it's about $14, $15 for a tub. I mean, this one's a UK version, but the US version will be the same. But imagine how far that would go. We only used a small amount. It would go so far. I'm lost for words. For a first attempt, I'm really impressed. Let me just show you some of the details around the outside as well. You can see even the white pigment itself has even got the effect. It's more so in the coloured areas though. Definitely, I need to play around with this a little bit more. So yeah, wow. We defied gravity. Hope you enjoyed that one. Hopefully the next video will be next weekend. As I said, we've still got quite a bit of stuff to do, especially at the old place. We still need to clear out a lot of stuff. Right, I will see you for the next one. Bye for now. Any questions, pop them in the comments. I'll try and answer them as best I can.